Uh, so I'd like now to welcome Father Paolo Benanti. Thank you so much for making your way to Geneva and spend the day with us. You're the AI advisor to the Holy See, and we just heard that the Holy See may not be fighting but framing AI. What do you think?
Good morning, thank you for having me. I have to correct you. There is no such thing as an official advisor to the Holy See for something. I'm just a consultant to different dicastery, but then journalists love to call me an advisor, and everyone is saying this future. Very simple and true, it's a fake news. Well, after this clarification, what I do, I'm a professor of ethics of technology, teaching in the Gregorian University, Seattle U, and in some other business school. I work with the Holy See as a consultant for different dicastery, especially education and culture, Pontifical Academy for Life, and penitentiary. This is a little bit different from AI. And then I'm one of the members of the United Nations High-Level Advisory Board to the General Secretary for the AI. So this is what I do. And I'm the chief of one commission of Italian government on the impact of AI in information and journalism. Well, you asked me what is the intersection between AI and the church. Well, I try to summarize in 4 directions, but I would like first of all to clarify in which way we have to look at that. First of all, AI belongs to such kind of technology, the simple shape, what we are used to call social doctrine of the church. The perspective that the church has on technology, that when they impact on society, are able to change the social relationship and the justice inside society. So in such perspective, what we are facing now is another step in the progression of such kind of corpus of reflection that we are used to call as a social doctrine. And according to John Paul II, in Submission to the Re Socialis, social doctrine of the church has to be understood as a part of the reflection of ethics in the church. So, if your question was, what is the connection between AI and church reflection, is something that has to be understood in the direction of ethics and ethics of technology. For now, there is an ongoing process. And this is the second point, that we have to be really clear on that, because otherwise we can misunderstand what is the kind of reflection that we are facing now. It's a time of the same. What does it mean? We have to understand that, especially after Amoris Laetitia of Pope Francis, as not as a sentence of a judge, but a process in which the church is working with all the men of goodwill to understand what's going on and to simply try to bring the wisdom of the gospel inside this kind of change. So you cannot expect now a definitive judgment, a definitive line. What we have is a series of questions raised to all the men of goodwill about the impact of such kind of technology in the society. Well, for now, we have a couple of expressions of the Holy Father and of other dicastery about the artificial intelligence. And more than make you a list of what is said, I try to connect them on 4 points, and then I send you a link to the different expression of this kind of point. The first point is about what does it mean to take together ethics and technology. It's not something that we can under-evaluate. 60,000 years ago, when we were still in the cave, and a member of our species take a club in his hand, was it a tool to open up much more covenants, or was it a weapon to open up much more scope? So the idea that technology could be something that could not have dual use, tool or weapon, is something that is old as is old the human beings. Should we look at technology in a negative or not positive way? Well, actually, the most interesting point now that we face is that we are really different, for example, from a mammoth. A mammoth is an animal that gets extinguished because the environmental condition was not anymore able to allow him to survive. And when a mammoth moved from the north to the south of the world, he has to wait for a member of his descendancy, the elephant, that does not belong there like the mammoth. When 60,000 years ago, this is almost the time that the anthropologists suggest to us, we moved from Africa all around the world. We didn't wait to come to the north of a son with long back, an hipster, but we dress ourselves with the skin of mammoths. So where the other species has all the ability that they have inside their biological condition, we change ourselves and the world with technology. So technology is a place in which it's possible to see the human identity. Technology is also where we see that we are much more than our biology. You know, an elephant, just to remain to the same mammal, has everything that he needs to make the elephant inside his biological condition, the famous elephant memory. Well, you and me not. If you don't want to forget something that we say today, well, you need pen and paper, or you need a smartphone, or you need a laptop. So technology is something that shows that me and you are living in an excedency of our biological state. This is techno-human condition. This is surfacing a lot of time inside the doctrine of the church. The last time that was said with a really bold way was in the speech of Pope Francis to the G7 last summer, in which he's quoting techno-human condition. Well, in that sense, ethics of technology arise not about the Western tool of weapon, but about arise in another direction, and is the idea, or better, the knowledge that every time that a technological artifact impacts society, it produces a form of order and a displacement of power. Well, it's really easy to demonstrate. The day in which I developed something like a railway, where I put the railway, where I put the station, I'm allowing someone to get in, I'm denying to someone else to get in. So this form of order is now not anymore present in steel of the railway, not anymore present in the concrete of the building or in asphalt of the street. But every time we have an algorithm with a condition function, if this, then that, I'm making a judgment in social space. So the perspective that the church has on technology, ethics of technology, is questioning technology to let arise this such form of order and displacement of power in society. I don't know how you handle the COVID pandemic. In Italy, we handled the COVID pandemic through vaccination, and the vaccination was ordained inside the population through an algorithm that was embedded in the public health service. You put your fiscal code, and they give you an appointment. So actually, a constitutional right, that is the right to health, was ordained inside the population through an algorithm. So when we approach the ability of a system to produce decisions inside a society, we are watching something that is changing, something that belongs to the democratic or plural way to handle decision and discussion inside the public space. So this is the first topic. The approach that the church is stressing is an approach that is taking all the core elements, all the core principles about justice and social justice and social teaching, and now is applying to this new layer of deployment of technology. Well, but this is not happening on the same identical reality that we had until now. So there is something new. And this is part of the process of the cell. What is the something new that we are facing? Okay, I'm a professor, and I'm also a prior. So I love to baptize new word, and the new word that I would like to suggest to you, and that we change the reality, and what we live now is a software-defined reality. And if we don't understand how computation changed the reality, probably we cannot understand why AI is so important in the reflection for a Christian path, a Christian reflection in society. What does it mean? Okay, let me make you an example, a narrative example, something that happened in my life. Last January, I was invited to January 2024 to one of the major universities in the United States to make a conference. It's one of the major of the Ivy League university. And like every university, important university in the United States is in the middle of nowhere. I'm used to say that they put this university where the donkey of the founding father dies. Well, so to get there, I take a really franciscan flight that means 26 hours of intersection inside the United States. Well, and the professor that was inviting me was really kind, and he told me, I'll pick you up at the airport. Really bad idea. I arrived at 3:30 in the night at this nowhere airport. He was there with the head eyes and bring me to the hotel with the really fancy car that is also the status symbol that he has, a fully electrical and autonomous car. Well, you know, my background is an engineer, so I jumped in the car. I was really tired for the long flight, and so I lose my self-control. When we arrived to the hotel, I could shut up, I didn't. And I looked at him and said, how I can get out of this stuff? Because there is no handle. He looked at me with a smile and said, look, there is a button here. Because in a Tesla, everything is remote controllable. So if your car broke, you go away and they can open and fix it. I looked at him and said, look, if the battery takes fire, this is not anymore a car, this is an ashtray. Well, I was backing much, he sold this car. But the problem is that that car is the symbol of what we did with the reality. If there is something that is out there, it was a car. We know very well with Ferrari, Porsche, and things like that. If you buy stuff and they are your stuff, such kind of engine is different from another kind of engine. Such kind of tire are different from other kind of tire. Now, when you buy a Tesla, all the Tesla are the same. If you download and pay the software, you can activate or deactivate function in the car, or horsepower, or things like that. You know, look at your smartphone. You buy the hardware, but it works for a software that is inside. And what is the new things? That you own the hardware, but you just get a license on the software. This is a new relationship of power between you and your stuff. So what does it mean? That, you know, if we connect to the Roman rights, the old Roman rights, when you own something, you have three fundamental rights. You can use, abuse, and usus, abusus, and fructus. You have the right to abuse. You have the right to destroy. If I would like to destroy my phone, someone is happy, I have to buy a new one. You have the right to use it. Probably demography suggests me that the majority of you has an iPhone, but probably someone has an Android. What you can do with Android and with iOS is not the same, it's different. So the right to use is not the same because you use it, you won't own it. It depends on the right that the license gives to you. But what is really subtracted to you is fructus. Fructus is the ability to get the fruits of what you own. My grandfather would say that I own a horse, and if I own a horse and I use to cultivate the land, the fructus come to me. Now, the fructus, the value that you produce here, is not yours. Well, the software-defined reality is something that is shaping new relationship of power inside society. I'm quoting a lot of core documents of the doctrine of the church, Centesimus Annos, Sollicitudo Rei Socialis, Popularium Progressio, and so on. So a software-defined reality is something that is changing, actually, where things happen. And the software-defined reality now is AI-driven. And in an AI-driven, which is a signal that probably I'm scaring you with this. And this signal is something that requires to renegotiate justice in the public sphere. This is the history of social reflection, of Christian social reflection inside society. When we invented something like the union, we made union for that. Union was a place in which we can negotiate justice in the public space, according to different places. And also your association, CDC, CDA, is something that arises with such kind of identity. So we are interested in the impact of AI in society because it is important to negotiate and to negotiate again the equilibrium of power and the justice. What I'm telling to you, what is belonging to the reflection of the church, is also something that belongs to probably what is the best book published in 2023. There is Power and Progress, Ashimogo and Johnson, and they won the Nobel Prize for Economy last year. So this idea is not something that belongs just to the church reflection, but it's something that belongs to multiple reflection in the public sphere. But this is something that is not new to the social doctrine of the church, because all the perspective is the Christian action in conjunction with all the men of goodwill. When we say men, it's men and women, but with all the people of the goodwill. Well, trace of this you can find in the G7 speech of the Pope, and trace of that you can find also in all the speech that the Pope gives to the Pontifical Academy for Life, especially in occasion with the signature of Rome for AIS. So this idea that the social space has to be maintained in a form of equilibrium to guarantee that there is not much unbalancing that make the society not anymore compatible with the Christian value and with the human coexistence. Well, okay, I make a 140-hour class on this topic, so I try to make it short, but I'm aware that a lot of questions could arise on every single point, but that, just to tell you that this is the moment of question more than answer. And probably as an interpreter and as a manager, part of the answer will come from the praxis that you will live during your job. So the church is really aware that also what you do every day with your professionality is part of the reflection that will be distillated and then reproposed to all the Christianity. Another big topic is this idea that between the human and the machine there is a relationship, there is also an interaction, and actually we are developing, thanks to the information, a new kind of machine that is simply different from the kind of machine that produced the Industrial Revolution. Well, I don't know how much you know about the history of AI, but just to make it short, a long discussion, we can start to define a machine as an intelligent in 1950, before the AI term was invented, what Claude Shannon with Norbert Wiener, that simple define, one define information and the other define cybernetic, decide to use information to control the machine. And the first machine that was built was a mechanical mouse with a really important mythological name, Theseus, that was able to move inside the maze, all connected by wire. So the mechanical mouse ran, when he hit a wall, produced a short circuit in a wire, and that shortcut produced a rotation of 90 degrees of the mouse. So hitting the wall after hitting the wall, the mouse was able to find the exit from the maze. Well, the use of information for control the machine gives to the machine an ability that was not thinkable before. The Industrial Revolution was made with a machine that was able to surrogate the human force. Now the machine is able to take an answer from the human beings, find the exit from the maze, and is able to adjust the means to satisfy the ends. Isn't it intelligence? And probably is what does it mean to have such kind of intelligence? But if you have a little petty, if you have a little dog, and you make a really complex way to find the food, and the pet is able to find the food, what you can say? How intelligent is this dog? So this ability to use information to produce something that is similar to an intelligent behavior of the machine is what we produce with artificial intelligence. But we are aware that the core element beside that is that information is used to control. And this is the core element. In the relationship between human beings and machine, who is controlling who? And this is the core element, one of the core elements of the discussion or focus inside the church reflection on AI. Actually, this problem was discussed in philosophy multiple times. Probably the first one that discussed this problem was Martin Heidegger, when he read one of the papers written by Norbert Wiener. You know, Heidegger was convinced that you can think only in Greek and in German. The paper from Norbert Wiener was cybernetic loop. Loop is not Greek, is not German. Cybernetic Kuber, that comes from Greek, was interesting for Heidegger. And Heidegger, in a short discourse, the title was Das Ende des Denkens der Gestalt der Philosophie, really Heideggerian title, The End of Thinking in the Age of Philosophy. He said, okay, you put the man and the machine on the same level among information. You will have two consequences. The first one, no one would like to philosophy anymore, because it's not anymore important to understand, it's important to control. But the second thing is, if you use man and machine on the same level, and now you are telling that the man is the sensor to produce information for the machine, who can guarantee you that it's not the machine that produces information to control the man? Well, it was 1976. Now, when you see a kid with these things in the hand, is his finger that is controlling the machine? Or are the notifications that are controlling the man? So the relationship between man and machine produce among this frontier, that is a frontier of information, is one of the most interesting anthropological reflections that the church is pointing out in this age of artificial intelligence. I don't have time here to rebuild for you all the philosophical milieu, but actually the same idea that comes with cybernetic, that then become artificial intelligence, and psychological approach to the human beings that was connected to a couple of Nobel Prizes, like Kahneman and like the Nobel Prize on nudge theory, they share the same root. This is a really interesting anthropological point, you know, because every day we have a more deep confrontation between an everyday much more human machine and an everyday much more machine-like human beings that understand themselves like something that works more than someone that exists. But the problem remains. So the big advantage, engineering speaking, of adding an AI is the ability of AI to predict the state of a system. If I deploy tons of sensors on a 20,000 ship that is sailing on the ocean, thanks to the anomaly of vibration captured by the sensor, I can tell you in how many weeks, days, hours, minutes, and seconds the engine will break. Well, that is really useful. You are not forced to make unnecessary maintenance. You will not have a ship without control in the middle of nowhere in the ocean. But this ability of prediction, if applied not to data produced by a mechanical system that has no degree of freedom, but a carbon-based system like me and you, not only predict what we are doing, but it will produce also our behavior. Amazon knows it very well. And the suggestion maybe you are interested to is producing up to 80% more of selling of some kind of product. So the frontier of freedom, the frontier of free will in a human-machine interaction is one of the top topic, hot topic, that we have to discuss to ensure a right and just coexistence between this new kind of agent in society. Well, don't forget that we are talking about ethics. The idea that machine can force your behavior is not bad in principle. Try to think about workplace and try to think about mortal accidents in the workplace. If a such nudging system, I can avoid some kind of death on the workplace, there is nothing bad. And we are facing also an aging society. And you know, after you become 65, in average, you take 3 different pills a day, 3 different drugs. And probably after 67, you will have a chronic disease. And chronic disease is something that is really connected on how much you switch to the therapy. And if you don't switch to the therapy, you go in acute moments, you need to go to the hospital, and then you will be released, and then so and so. So having such kind of system that allow you to switch to the therapy is something that is really good for your health, for the cost of the healthcare system, and for all the things. So once again, it could be a tool or it could be a weapon. What is important now is being part of such kind of discussion, is to be part of the governance, global governance of AI. The core question is, does human beings have a cognitive right to know how the machine is trying to force him in such kind of behavior or not? Is it something that could be remain hidden inside the company use of such kind of tools? And we face a lot of problem in the social media space with the nudging algorithm and polarization algorithm and things like that. But this is enough that you can go and see a lot of products of simple, also movie that simple are shouting loud how much toxic could be the interaction in the social media space. Trace of this you can find in the message for the World Day of Communication of the last year, in which the message from the Holy See, from the Vatican, is simple about AI and communication and how AI could, with fake news and things like that, produce a shifting of free will in public society. Well, there is another problem, and that probably is nearest to you, and is the future of the work. You know, because AI is simply another chain in a long chain of automation in the world. And we know that automation is changing the production, is changing the job place. Well, is it AI something that will produce the end of work? This is some of the questions that you can hear around in society. Well, the answer is not, of course. But AI will have an impact on the job market. We have to be aware that the impact will be not the same in the different jobs. Because we know that there is a paradox that comes from IT, and is the Moravec paradox. What is the Moravec paradox? Well, a machine is really able to do a complex cognitive task than a simple cognitive task. Let me give you a practical example. How much is the price of a little teeny solar calculator that can do a square root of a number if you try to buy an internet? You pay too much. I found it at 0.98 cents of an euro. I have good stuff. I'm a franciscan. Okay, thank you very much. If you laugh, I don't lose it. It's teaching tricks. Well, and how much is, for you that work with robotics, the price of a robotic arm that can open up a handle? 170,000 euro if you buy one. Well, a 4-year-old kid can open up the door and run in the street to make a square root. It at least needs to be 15. What does it mean? That the impact of AI will be higher in the kind of job that has a higher cognitive task than the lower one. But, by the way, those are the jobs that are the best paid in society. And that can produce a huge inequality in the job market. And if you look at the present AI platform producing value, like, for example, Just Eat, Globo, and things like that, well, the manager job that is connecting problem owner with solution owner, I'm starting, I sell hamburger, is made by a machine, a subsystem. The work that remains is the physical one that drives the bike. That means that with the impact of AI in society, we have to think about the social guardrail to avoid such kind of inequality that can produce a social stress or social riots. This is a scenario that we have to understand, especially for associations like you that come from unions. So such kind of negotiation about the ability of produce value and the paycheck that I get back in my production of value has to be negotiated. Now we are in a situation, like, for example, in a huge tech company like Microsoft, in which the top management are more than 300 times the salary of the lower. It's a lot. And the average salary in Microsoft is $147,000 a year, the average. That means that in some way we have to discuss such kind of idea on how to understand, how to share the revenue in production value inside a company, and how to make it workable for a society. The answer to this question is really different according to the philosophy that you have, according to the place where you live, according to the part of the world where you live, and cannot be solved with one direction from the high, has to be negotiated in different things. But it's something that is not new about the discussion of social doctrine of the church about the unions and the role of the unions that happened in the 19th century and 20th century. So it's a new chapter of the same things. You can find part of that in the Pontifical Academy for Life speech of the Pope, part of that in Antica Nuova, and part of that in the G7 speech of the Pope. So you can see there are traits of such kind of topics in an ongoing reflection. But it's not something that can be produced at the higher level and then trickle down. It's something that has to arise from the day-by-day exchange with the impact of AI and a need of reflection in a common place like the one we're looking at today. Well, the last one, I have still 4 minutes. I would like to be Swiss today, not Italian. Well, it was a joke. Well, it's about the epistemological problem that arises with AI. Is it an AI a really intelligent system? We have a first reflection on that on Antigua et Nova, the document of the church. We have something like that in the G7 speech, but it's a problem. Okay, this is a huge, huge, huge topic. I cannot embrace it now for its entire dimension, but I just would like to give you an example of what does it mean to questioning ourselves on the nature of the knowledge that an AI can have. Okay, I saw that you use GPT also to pray, so GPT is able to produce something that is like a human text. And ChatGPT is the use of GPT that is a machine learning plus reinforced learning. Well, what does it mean? Well, let's be back to the origin of reinforced learning. Reinforced learning is something that was developed in the 1960s. The history is this. There is two IT guys in London, in the United Kingdom, and one go to the other and said, will be you able to build a machine that is able to play and win a tic-tac-toe, just knowing the rules? This IT guy, IT scientist, make this challenge to the other IT scientist. The name of this one was Donald Mickey. And Donald Mickey's simple answer, let me think. 1 year later, 1961, he was back with 302 matchboxes and said, I made it. You know, at that time, there are not so much computers, so he used matchboxes. And he developed a machine, the name was Menace, that is like something that tricked, he is a menace, but actually is the name for matchbox, educable, nuts and cross, that is the British name of tic-tac-toe, engine. How it works? Okay, it's simple, add just one rule more than the standard rule. The machine has to start the game. In this way, you can cap the number of the boxes to 302. There is nothing different. You can do the same things with much more matchboxes. But because it's handmade, it's easy if you go in this. Every matchbox is empty. Okay? In the inside of matchboxes, you put 2 pieces of paper just to make like, you know, a bottleneck. And on the top part of the matchboxes, you put 3 random balls of 9 color balls that are the 9 color of every square of the tic-tac-toe scheme. Over every matchbox. This is a loud thing on the mic. Well, what he made, it's simple, put over every matchboxes, one of the configuration of the game. Empty, circle in the middle, circle in the right, and so on. So it's time to play. At the first moment, there are 3 random balls in every box. So it's time of the machine to make the movement. The human beings take the empty configuration, shake the box, shake it, and one ball moves from the upper part of the matchbox to the lower part. The color is the movement of the machine. Then is the human being turn that make freely his own move. Then you go to the matchboxes with the configuration of the game, shake it, and so on. At the end of the game, you can have 3 different conditions. The machine wins the game, and you will have 3 balls of the same color of the random ball for every movement. The machine ties the game, and you add 1. The machine loses the game, and you subtract 1. Welcome to reinforced learning. What happened? After 20 matches, the machine starts to tie. After 150 matches, the machine don't lose anymore. Are the ball aware that they are playing tic-tac-toe? No. Are the matchbox aware that they are playing tic-tac-toe? No. But something of the human ability to play tic-tac-toe now is in the machine. Technically, you can apply this system to every kind of play. If you would like to apply to chess, you can do it. You need 10 at 24 matchboxes. That means, to give you a visual representation, that if you put the matchboxes in a circle, the distance from the center to the circle is 4,000 million kilometers. That means that if you put the center of the circle on the sun, you need to go to Uran to find one of the possible configuration of the game. The day in which you was able to put inside the computer, you developed Watson, that is the computer that won Kasparov at chess. ChatGPT is the same thing. It's a reinforced learning on syllabus, on token, word by word. So is it ChatGPT aware of what it's telling to you? No. Is it ChatGPT something that has a knowledge? What is it? Well, we have to answer that before using these, for example, for medicine, or using these to take decision. Welcome to the epistemological question. Welcome to Antiquate Nova. So I do the best job in the world. I'm an ethicist. I make the question, and people run away before giving any kind of answer. And I'm sorry, you are the generation that has to find the answer to define which kind of role AI should have in society. Thank you very much. Thank you.